Welcome to Soul Nutrition, where we discuss the various ways of nourishing the soul. And today we have our Valentine's Month special, where we discuss one very important element of nourishing the soul: love. Today's guests are Pastor Terry Hoggard and his wife, Ruth Ann. The Hoggard family have been European missionaries since 1984. Terry has published books about biblical wisdom, collaboration, and cooperation in the church, and he is currently Vice President of International Program for Convoy of Hope. Today, Terry and Ruth Ann are here to share with us the secret to their exceptional love relationship and long-lasting marriage. Terry and Ruth Ann, it is such an honor to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Reina, for inviting us on.
Thank you, Reina.
It's my pleasure. So our mutual friend, Angela Hudson of the You Are Enough podcast, nominated the two of you as an exceptional couple who displays a loving marriage that is far above and beyond the examples we see in society today and even the church today. So what would you two say is the secret sauce, if you will, to the successful marriage so many see that are around you?
Well, I think that maybe I have to say that Angela saw me and I was bonkers, and she wondered, how could any woman stay close to him for 47 years? So that was sort of the framework of not the nomination. I'll let Ruth Ann start. What do you think the secret sauce is, Ruth Ann?
I think relationally, just honoring one another. When you come together, when you see each other for the first time, you have no idea what the future holds for you. But as you grow together, just being really connected in that way.
And I would have to add to that, because we knew kind of almost instantly that we had a heart connection, but we had no relational connection. We met on the campus of a Bible school, and I was 18 by 2 weeks when we got there. She never planned to come. I never planned to come. She's a Pennsylvania girl. I'm a Kansas guy. It was just absolutely miraculous that we would even be in that time and space together. So we knew from the beginning we had real attraction, it was more than, obviously, I'd never been around Italian girls. So when I saw an Italian girl, I thought, man, I've been missing a whole species here. What's wrong with my world? So it was, for me, love at first sight, definitely. But it was more than that, because Ruth Ann it's a slow burn with her. It doesn't just, she doesn't get swept off her feet. She's very highly practical. So I think that was the big thing. We had a powerful heart connection, and then we understood that we have to develop the relational connection.
Exactly.
Because heart connections, as powerful as they feel initially, unfortunately, don't endure. So that probably is the secret sauce, that we knew we needed to build on this incredible heart connection and get some relational connection going.
I love that, because I feel like, especially in certain parts of the church today, we see couples get really excited. We both love Jesus. We both do this. Let's get married in 2 weeks, and they didn't get that other part of the relational connection that you're talking about. And Terry, when we spoke before, I just want to mention in secret sauce, you talked about your saucy Italian wife. So maybe that's part of the secret sauce too.
Oh yeah, that's it. Also, because you don't get to move fast with Italians, because you have to pass the test of all the family.
Oh yeah.
So I knew I needed the mother and the aunts. I desperately needed mom and the aunts to get along beside me here. So.
And the father.
Yeah, but I'll let that to your mom.
That's like in Greek wedding, where she
exactly.
says, the man is the head, but the woman is the neck.
And I knew that. So that was a big thing. So I got them on board with me early on. And then I think Dad was kind of, okay.
He worked his charm. You know how it is. He worked his charm, and all the women fell in love. Yeah. That's basically what happened.
And I'm the only non-Italian in the family, Reina, the only one.
Wow.
So her sister married a guy named Nicolai Aevoli. Her brother married a girl named Charlene Mata. And I'm just Terry Hoggard. No vowel on any of my names. The family kind of looks like I say my name and they say, do you have something else to say? I say, no, it's not Terencio. It's not Hoggado. It's just Terry Hoggard. So interestingly, though, we spent 10 years in Rome. And so I learned to speak Italian better than a whole bunch of them, which was.
He's the only one really in the family who speaks incredible Italian. Mm-hmm. My daughters, we all speak Italian, but Terry's incredible. Yeah. He really is.
Well, you were a pastor in Italy for many years, right? So you're going to have to be able to articulate correctly to the entire congregation
And shockingly, you may not have noticed yet, I love to talk. So to not be able to talk was like a prison. So I was throwing out words. I was like speaking like a telegraph. Like, these are words I know, fill in the rest of them. That's my sentence for you.
I understand. I'm a talk show host, and I moved down to South America not speaking a word of Spanish. And, same thing. It was like within 6 months, I could speak for 6 hours because I needed to talk.
Exactly. Powerful motivation.
Yes.
That's right. Well, it's funny because in France, I went to the church there, the international church in France.
Yeah.
And I learned much slower because it was so many English speakers,
yeah.
and I wasn't planning to be there forever. So, I still speak Spanish better than I speak French, and I spent almost 5 years in France.
Yeah, I know that, because the immersion piece is critical. I guess what helped me learn it was I knew I had a church full of expats, and I needed to be, if they got a phone call, didn't understand something, I could go to the house and take care of it. You got a bill, bring it to me. I'll tell you what they're asking for. Don't panic. It's probably nothing. And so I felt it was like a gift to my congregation to be able to be linguistically connected.
And did that endear you to mom and dad and aunties?
Oh, definitely.
Definitely. Better than that, Ruth Ann's grandfather was hit on her mother's side. Both were immigrants. So Antonio, he spoke his dialect, but I could understand him. So he really loved it when he heard my daughters. They went when they were 6 and 8. And when they started speaking Italian, that got him too. But I got the heart of the patriarch, which is the best thing in a family. Italian family.
It's true.
That's right. So actually, I want to speak about families because, I think in the church we have some different things, and there's different ideas with cultures. If you're in any kind of Latin, Greek, Italian kind of family versus, other families that are less close. And then you've got verses like the man leaves his father and mother and clings to his wife. And I personally, have experience being engaged to someone that was very unable to leave and cleave, because it was a very Latin family that was, you just stayed with mom. Even if you got married, you were still almost like mom's second husband, like she referred to him for everything. And so speak to me about having a very close-knit family, right? And I don't know, Terry, if your family's like that too, but where's the balance between close-knit families and leaving and cleaving and creating your own and staying with, there's a big mix of how do you balance all that?
Yeah.
Well, for us personally, when we got married, we were away from our families. I was specifically away from my family, Terry, for about the first 4 or 5 years, I believe. Right. And then we moved to North Wichita and was near his family. And that's a little bit different for the daughter-in-law and all that. So it was great. For 4 years, we were with his family. It was wonderful. And then we moved on to Italy. So then we were somewhat separated from our families.
Oh, I'd also say that Ruth Ann's family, physically, they were very much about, the daughter being able to have her own identity and establish herself. Oh. We joked about what would dad think, but the way it happened was the aunties brought it all up, and dad says, well, he's better not be coming here. Oh, Joe, what do you know? Of course he's coming, So they kind of knew. And I think because my family are a wonderful, solid, beautiful family in every way, but Ruth Ann's family on her dad's side especially, 4 brothers, and they were all pursuant, 3 active and the other pursuant of doing full-time ministry. Wow. So the fact that we had that at our heart, they kind of understood. Mm-hmm. And for their daughter to be in that space was I think pretty powerful for them.
Yeah, it was very powerful.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you had really,
we know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Talk to me about what you've seen.
We know
it sounds like you hit the lottery of families really understanding, creating your own identity as a couple and things.
Yeah.
But I know that you've seen many marriages throughout your 47 years of marriage that didn't have that. Tell me about when that's not there and how a couple can navigate that.
Well, I think it goes back a little bit, Reina, to how we started. I think that to take the marriage step, there's got to be a real piercing, something convincing that this is it, and this is the moment, and now is the time. And I think when you begin that way, and people ask us a lot, so what's your best advice for marriage, and we simply say, never give up, just never quit, never ponder quitting. Don't think about that. So you're going to find ways to work through it. So I think you can't have a marriage when it's the allegiance and the loyalty and the devotion is split. I love my mother-in-law, love my father-in-law, love my mom and dad, but none of that would trump the love I have for Ruth Ann, because it was a love that was born. We were young, and it was just born in our hearts, and we left everything after being married, I think about 8 years, and spent more than 30 years living in Europe. And we were all on our own. We just had each other, and visits to family, phone calls to family, but not life with family. So that helped us. And I think, again, in conversation with people who are struggling with that, you have to get some people out of this space. It's not sacred, because loving mom and dad is sacred, and loving your wife is sacred. So they're not competitive realities, but you have to put focus on this enduring relationship with my life partner. That's what really matters most.
I love that. And I think, it's something, especially in a society that is kind of a microwave, we want what we want, absolutely, and we get it within minutes. We have divorce just rampant, even in the church. I mean, I think the church percentage is right on par almost with the rest of the world right now, as far as divorces go. And so how does one make that commitment? I mean, obviously they're making a commitment before God, but and recognize it in another person, because sometimes, we might be willing to say to that other person, we're kind of always questioning, are they staying? Are they not? Or do I need to be perfect in order for them to stay? Right? We see this a lot. What would you say in your 47 years of, pastoring couples, being married yourself, is the key to both people really being in it, no matter what, not giving up? And is there a time in your marriage where it could have been really tempting to give up, but you pursued anyway?
Well, I'm gonna say something, you can speak to it.
Okay.
I think what we understood was, in the beginning, we're worlds apart, cultures and everything, just even parts of the world. I'd never been east at all at that point in 1972 when we met. So the point was that we kind of understood we have to accept each other, but at the same time, expect that changes will come. So I begin here I accept you as you are and for who you are, but then I also know that changes are going to have to come. There's a lot we don't know about each other. What's out of bounds for you? What's the best way to communicate with you? Remember Gary Chapman's book, What's Your Love Language? What really resonates for you? Those are things that I think were tools that helped us early on. We even did Marriage Encounter early on. And we kind of knew that there were tools, and there were patterns, and there were out of bound things that could not enter the marriage, just could not. Doesn't mean they wouldn't, because none of us are perfect, but they cannot linger here. When identified and made known, we confess to each other, confess to God when we need to, and say, we got to start over here. And there's so many trite things to be said, but someone has said that the greatest marriage actually is just the union of two great forgivers. And I think that's true. Mm-hmm. We're going to build out on that, honey.
Yeah, I believe that relationships just take time. And I think so many times in our world today that it's like something goes wrong, and it's like there is no moving forward from that point on. Let's just not forgive each other. Let's just remember what the pain was, and we don't want to move on. But relationships take a lot of time. And like Terry said, with our love languages, we had to learn that. You have to learn what your partner's love language is. He had to learn mine. I had to learn his. And don't we all know which buttons to push when we don't want it to go? We just know that we're, after being together for so long, we just know I can't push that button today. Today is not going to happen. Maybe another day I could push that button, but not today. Yeah. And the same with him. So I think this idea of never giving up is that in the midst of the turmoil, or whatever the argument is about, or the indecision is, that you just say, for now, let's just put it on the table, and we're going to come back to that, but we're not going to give up now. And it's going to take time. And relationship isn't about let's make a date on Friday night and talk about that. That's not what happens in marriage, actually. What happens is marriage is you live with this person 24/7 and you have got to.
Don't say that.
You've got to get up in the morning.
Such a chore.
You got to have coffee. You got to get dressed. You got to make room for each other in the bathroom. You just got to take care of each other. It takes time, and not all of the pieces come together at one moment. They take time, and you work on them one at a time. I think that when we started working on that one thing at a time, because it can be overwhelming in a marriage, one thing, celebrate that. Celebrate. I remember the day when I thought, he has got to change. I think we spent the first 10 years of our marriage. He's got to change. I can't take this anymore. And he probably felt the same thing about me. She's got to change. But the fact of the matter is, you just pick one particular thing and then you work on that. It's a lifetime.
Yeah, and I think another thing for us is that Ruth Ann's, she's very resolute and unchanging. So her love language is always acts of service. I wish it was gifts so I could buy her roses. No, I have to run the vacuum cleaner. I have to shake the rugs to really get her jazzed. That's her love language. I'm wishing for anything but that, but that's the reality. I used to say jokingly, because I got married young, that like most men, my two are words of affirmation and physical touch. But that's not really true. What I value most is the quality of time. So I want Ruth Ann to come and sit down next to me, like on this, bring the lid down on the toilet and sit there while I'm shaving and talk to me. And I'm talking, I'm barely intelligible. I got I can barely get words out that are intelligible, but I like her being there. I just like her being there.
And that can be sometimes the hardest one maybe for Ruth Ann to give when she's got two kids running around. She's helping out with, the church activities that you're running, and you want her to sit down and have a conversation, outside of the Friday, let's set a date for this. Right. Yeah. And so you had to learn that about each other, right? Yeah. That, okay, this one's actually the toughest one for me to give you, but I'm going to, like on Ruth Ann's side, set the vacuum aside for a minute. Yeah, have the kids on doing their thing, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to have a chat with you before you go off and do all your ministry work. And then you too, Terry. You're like, okay, I'm going to go run the vacuum for her now. I'm going to make sure the kids get on their way to school and all these things. And I can understand too. Ruth Ann, you have been, the matriarch of the family and making sure all those things are done right as Terry goes out and runs the ministries. And so, yeah, to get a little help with that would be a love language that would come pretty easily.
Yes.
Yeah. I also think you mentioned something earlier. I just want to give this thought. And this sounds a bit rude, but I want to just make a point. It's interesting that someone's trash is another man's treasure. And the Bible says for husbands, wives, love your husbands, respect your husbands, and husbands, love your wives. So there's something about cherishing something. So if I cherish something and I take good care of it, I'm not going to sit out on the curb. It's maybe it's an old motorcycle or an old bicycle, or in my case, my 2006 Z4 that I keep in the garage, and I rub it and polish it and take care of it. So when you stop treating your wife or your husband as a treasure, they will soon be up on offer to someone else because the treasure has become trash. And I think that's something to really protect. And trash is harsh words, relentless pursuit of trying to make your point, and a devouring heart. I just see so many things in marriage, and that long term is just not tolerable. You can't survive that space. We need to ask God to change something for you, and we've always tried to keep that outside of us. Our greatest failure, as you said, have you ever had a point when you thought we were going to quit? We don't fight. We just have discussions. Loud, long, lively discussions.
I was going to say, you're married to an Italian woman.
They're loud. They're loud.
But the point is, we almost always still, when something pops up, our first response is always wrong. And I say, could I redial that? I just was kind of my headspace wasn't there. I said what I didn't want to say. I don't want to try to continue that conversation on the framework we started with. I want to dial that back and start over.
Mhm.
So as long as you can do that, and I want to learn, but when you live with lots of pressure, sometimes your first response, because I have to tame my voice at Convoy, I can't say things to congregants. I've got to, so sometimes I'll say, here's how I actually feel about that, which is kind of okay, but it's because she hears my frustration speech, but it's not the way to approach her, and I have to dial that back a lot.
Yeah, and oftentimes I thought about this phrase that we hear often about learned behavior, because each of us come from a family culture. My family culture is totally different than Terry's family culture.
Amen, sister.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It really is. I've learned so much because I'm an East Coaster, but I've learned so much from Terry being from the Midwest and his whole family, that whole ethos thing. And he's learned a lot as well. Of course, he lived in Italy, so I had to explain a lot of things to him when we got there. But learned behavior is quite interesting to me because you bring that into a marriage. And when he says that our first responses are so off sometimes, it's very true, because my learned response was, whoever in the Italian culture, whoever yelled the loudest won. So when I came to marriage, and it didn't work that way. So that's just something interesting I want to add, that those are things that you have to learn. You just have to learn it.
Yeah,
you have to, and what do you say? It's an awareness thing. I am aware of the fact that now I am not speaking really the right way. I am not understanding this the right way, or I'm not giving the right way, whatever it is.
Yeah. Her family, when I first went home with them, I kept my head down, thought, my God, these people hate each other. And they just yelled and screamed. Then they just, okay, let's get the dishes and have dessert.
We weren't mad at each other when we were yelling at each other.
But it helped when I got to Italy. And you may have seen this. Two guys screaming and yelling, okay, ready? Let's go get a coffee. But they put their arm like this, put their arm like this. Come on, let's go get a coffee. They've just been devouring each other. Well, we're all done now. We said it. We're good to go.
I remember being shocked by Italian culture that, when they would kind of catcall, and then someone told me the old ladies will get mad if they don't catcall. Like, what? You don't want to look at me? You don't want to say that I'm beautiful?
Exactly.
So they think it's respectful to catcall everybody and say how beautiful you are out on the street.
Oh yeah.
As an
Ma
American,
signora, che belli occhi ce l'hai. What beautiful eyes. In fact, my wife says to me, they're playing you. I said, I don't even care if they are playing me. I like it anyway. If they are playing me, I'm okay with it.
That's right.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So I hear you guys saying a lot about, this takes time. You have to learn it. It takes time. And you spoke about when you were courting, you had the heart connection, and then you made the relational connection. Again, you guys are coming with a wealth of 47 years of pastoral care and missionary care. And I know you've seen lots of couples. So, and you guys got married pretty young, right? I mean, you met at 18. So for the average couple, let's say, what do you think is a good amount of time to start to learn each other? Because of course, the person you marry is very important in the equation. You want to marry someone who's bringing you closer to God, who's going to be on the same track with the calling God's put on your heart, right? I mean, Terry, if Ruth Ann didn't want to leave the country and you're called to be a missionary, you'd have a real tough time in your marriage. So
that's a long story.
Oh, okay.
When we met,
let's talk about that, and as well as for couples, what's the amount of time, and how do you know when you're ready to make that decision? So tell me about this story first, Terry.
The thing is, when we met, she's a pastor's daughter. I'm not. So my dream at that point was to be a cop or a coach. Oh. That's all. Oh. I loved God immensely. I'd made a real faith decision just before I turned 16. I was intensely in love with Christ, but I had nothing in my world. I'm the only one in my family to actually finish my BA, because my brother did a military career and my two sisters got married kind of early on. So I didn't have any sense of any background about going to ministry. So she said to me, "Are you going to be a pastor?" I said, "What made you say that? I'm in the gym every night on every intramural sport team I can play." I brought my buddies home when we got married so she could make them cookies. We brought to the Super Bowl. One night she kept telling me that's got to stop. So one night I came home after walking my buddies back to the dorm. Taped to my door was, "You love your buddies so much, sleep with them tonight." And the door was locked. We lived in a housing thing for students. I'm knocking very lightly. Ruth Ann? Nope. I just went back and told my buddies, hey guys, got a bunk here tonight. Ruth Ann's locked me out of the house.
Terry thought that apartment was an extension of the dorm room
Yeah.
that he used to live in.
Yeah, silly things. But yeah, I just wanted to say that was a critical thing that she didn't know about that at the time. And the what I think happens for couples in general is that sense of, Ruth Ann kind of said it, is they want instant gratification rather than a delayed sense of deep joy. And you can't have it both ways. You can have instant gratification, but if something is not shifting in the heart, linking you together, then the moments seem so precious are quickly dealt away.
Right.
But if you say the long term is, I'm trading instant gratification for the beauty of a long developed yet somehow delayed sense of joy. And I think that's critical. I remember a story, and I may get this a little bit wrong, but I know the big pieces of it are true. People can look it up. Tony Campolo was a speaker and just kind of a motivational speaker back in the day. And he was speaking to a group of students about traditional marriage. And he said, I'm not winning the argument at all. They're saying to me things, oh, come on, you buy your first car, then you get another. When you start your first job, then you get another. Come on, you can have your first wife, like my starter wife, then I can get another one. And he's just not winning at any level the value of traditional marriage. And he said, then I thought of this story. He had a friend whose dad and mom had been married beyond 60 years, and mom passed. And when she passed, the sons walked dad, went to the funeral. Hit Pop's turn to go down to the front. So Pop walks to the front. He looks down in the casket, pats his wife's hand and says, you go on now, honey. You go on. Don't you worry about me. Looked at his sons and said, this is how I always wanted it to be, that she would go first so she'd never know the pain of being left alone. And Campolo looked at those students and said, and you, with your puny 3 and 5 years and out, there is a love that you'll never know until you stay with it for the long haul. And I think that's the difference. You can't really know what a marriage feels like 47 years in. You just can't, no matter how bad it might felt at 7 or 17 or 27, you just can't know it. I can't describe it to you, the deep sense of joy that you feel with each other. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the biggest thing, is they let outside external pressures. And, I've done marriage counseling. So tell me, just write down here all the things that are wrong. And when they're done writing, they've got like 3 or 5. So you're prepared to walk on 3 to 5 issues. Come on. Come on. We can work through this. You want to say something, honey?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. What would you say would be the challenge? And what's the hardest thing about staying in?
Well, I think we live busy lives. We have so many things that distract us from, and it's not just marriage relationships. We have friendships that we want to build on, and we want to have a long we all have these long-term friends. Well, everybody knows that if that friend is not going to be a friend for long unless you spend time with them. It's just as simple as that. Your family, your family members, your sons and daughters. How many times our sons and daughters have said to us, but you haven't spent any time with me. You haven't even sat down and talked to me. I think that, it's very, very important. We have to prioritize that. Do I want to go and do this certain thing that I, had in my heart to do, or do I want to stay home with Terry because we haven't really been together all week? It's those kinds of decisions you have to make.
And I think too, just one thing, this is again, not other people have said it in a similar way, but what I often say about, for example, Facebook, social media, never have we had such a high level of communication and such a low level of real connection.
Mm-hmm.
We communicate a lot, but we're not really connected.
Speaking of that, I'm a quality time is up in my top 2 as well. And that's something I'm like, unless we are disconnected from the phones and any other screen, I'm like sitting around on our phones, watching Netflix, none of this counts as quality time for me. You know,
Yeah.
I'm like, unless we are really engaged with each other,
Yes.
then it doesn't count. You may be with me, we may be spending time together, but unless we're disconnected from something that we're zombieing out on, whether that's phones or whatever screen it might be, to me, it doesn't count. And, you know, sometimes people can get frustrated with that. What do you
Yeah.
mean? I was with you all this time.
Yeah.
Were you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, something else I think that is going to
Very
be
true.
helpful here is that we learned early on, I think it must have been from Marriage Encounter, but we learned about building multiple levels of intimacy. Every place you can connect. So
Yes.
it's the smallest of things. For example, when Ruth Ann goes to bed, I go to bed.
Hmm.
Yeah. I don't fall asleep in front of the TV. I don't know. When she goes to bed, I brush my teeth and I go to bed with her. 47 years. We're
Wow.
side by side all night long.
And one of the things we really like to do is, maybe it's because we lived in Europe, I don't know, but we love drinking coffee. And in other cultures, going to someone's house is not this, and having coffee is not the same as going to the local bar where you see all your friends and everybody in the neighborhood. It's the whole experience. So Terry and I don't like to have coffee away from each other.
Mm-hmm.
If we can have a coffee in the morning and sit down and talk, that's the best way to start our day.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's what I mean. So what you learn is this, and it's basically intimacy is what gives you a chance to trust. So I know some married couples who have his friends and her friends and his bank account and her bank account. I'm not making any sense of a judgment statement, but when you can find levels of being together. So my wife, I have, my phone is her phone. She knows how to get on my phone and down my 4-digit code and open my phone anytime she wants. That's just the way it is. We also even thought about recreational intimacy because early on in our marriage, I love playing flag football and I love playing volleyball, but spiking the ball down your throat. I love playing basketball, taking a few people out. So I was this big rogue brute, and she's 5'2", 105. So she's little. So, and this is really early on, but we concluded we need to do something together. So we decided that we could match up bowling.
Okay.
Bowling. Yeah. So we were on church teams, she and I together, and we bowled with one of our worship pastors and us, and we called our team Staff Infection. So it was really fun. And so we bowled, and my theory about bowling is I throw the ball so hard, of course, anyone would say you throw hard, you lose all the pin action because you bang them so hard they spin out. But nonetheless, I would throw that ball and dare those pins to stand up. I dare you to stand up. Bam! Ruth Ann bowls, and she drops the ball, and it's barely moving. I go get a cup of coffee, come back, it's still going. Go grab a cheeseburger, come back, it's still going. But when she hits, she would get us marks, one. In fact, we called her clutch. You need someone to keep it in the middle, get us great pin count, go to Ruth Ann, not Terry. I'm gonna be frustrated. I'm gonna blow up and I get a ridiculous split that I can't ever hit splits because I'm so frustrated that I have it. So but we found recreational intimacy. So it kind of lost its urge. I joked a little bit, but we did decide. So we're 65. What are we going to do together? So I knew that one, I'm not going to be a cruise guy because I hate buffets. I don't like too much food on my plate. We're not going to be campers, so no temptation to buy in Winnebago. My brother would love for me to be a casino player, but that's not going to happen either. So we decided what would be great is for us, and I'm advocating to my buddies, let's start a couple car culture. A car that just you and your bride can sit in. There's no room for the grandkids, no room for groceries. And we have a beautiful fiery red Z4 convertible. And our favorite,
I have a blue Z3.
We love going out in this area, there's all these beautiful roads at lots of curves. And so I'll actually come when she says, hey, we need to take a ride in the car. I said, we do, you're right. So I don't have a motorcycle or a Harley because she wouldn't want to ride a Harley with me. So you see what I'm saying? Any place
you worry the whole time too.
Yeah. So any place you can build intimacy, it builds trust.
Yeah.
And when you build trust, you're just comfortable. So even if something is said that sounds wrong, deep down, I know she didn't mean it that way, or he didn't mean it that way, because you've learned this level of trust. And you know that when the night is over, you're going to go in the bedroom and sleep together. That's just it. So everything is resolved. Whatever happens is wrapped up in a 24-day. We pray with each other, a good night's sleep prayer, and wake up in the morning, and she's obliged to give me a hug every morning. That's the one thing that I've negotiated lately. I have to have a morning hug first thing. Yeah.
But I like that. I've heard couples that do rituals.
Oh, yeah.
That's a ritual that you're always going to have that hug. I want to dig a little bit more into this trust. I feel like we're in a culture of distrust. Like you said, very many couples, separate bank accounts. You don't invade my private phone, or or even maybe they've been divorced and feel like they can't even trust themselves to make a good decision on a spouse because they did it wrong the first time, right? And so we've got a lot of distrust in our society these days. And I love how you built relational trust, and all these different layers of trust and intimacy. How would you tell someone who just is struggling trusting anyone to begin to have faith and trust, especially in another human being?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes the violations of trust are so deep and so profound, it actually, beyond time, it takes a miracle of God.
Yeah.
That's just the truth, because it's shattered, it's broken, it seems irreparable. I just can't build this one back. But what basically comes down to that, no matter when it happens, at some point in life, healthy people have to risk the issue of trust. Otherwise, you won't trust. The level to which your world starts collapsing if you can't get that reestablished. And I don't think I've ever talked someone into, some little theme or scheme I had to make it work. I just simply said it's got to stop sometime, and I don't know what better time than now. I mean, I've said to wives, for example, whose husbands made mistakes, listen, I don't know. Is he a creep? Or did he make a terrible decision? Because terrible decisions happen a lot. And, sin is always influenced. The enemy always baits the trap, always. And so you just have to, if he's a creep and you can't trust him at all, then maybe this is the time to call it. I don't know that. But I have a friend, he's Mexican and she's Danish, and they were kind of there. He talks about openly and about he was a traveling guy, and in some cultures you land a big deal, they want to send you a little present, it just happens that way.
And some cultures it's widely accepted, if not encouraged.
Absolutely. Exactly. You just for your big deal, you get this. We're going to provide you some little company tonight. Yeah, that's just it's quite common. So the point was, every time, because she was sure it was all done. And we had that conversation. You tell me, is he a creep, or did he just make a bad decision? Because you can't exit people out of your life who make bad decisions. Now you can when it becomes patterns and it becomes intentional. But basically speaking, that's and your son. No one will ever endure in your space if your violation of trust threshold is so automatic that once you cross the line, you're done, and you're done forever. So they've stopped calling. They've moved to Spain now, to Sunshine. I'm happy for them. But there were times that she would write, or my friend would write and say, I just want to thank you so much for talking us through that and praying with us through that, because we're enjoying some of the best years of our life together right now.
That is wonderful. I want to point out, I think it's Richard Rohr that I've read. I'm sure many people have said it, but that in the Bible, we see sins of weakness and sins of the heart. And Christ was always very merciful and graceful with sins of weakness. The woman caught in adultery, we see these sins of weakness, but it was the sins of the heart, like the Pharisees being hard-hearted and hateful, right? That Jesus actually became very vocal. And that's the only part we actually see him with those harsher scriptures, is when he's speaking to someone where it's a sin of the heart and there's a heart change. But the sins of weakness, I feel like a lot of times our kind of puritanical Christianity focuses so much on moralism that we put the sins of weakness so much higher than the sins of the heart, which is really so much more important. And so I like what you're saying, was it a sin of weakness, or is it a sin of the heart? Is it going to continue and their heart needs to change and they have to want that change? Or was it something that happened? They're going to have to be very careful moving forward because it's a sin of weakness that they've already given into. But you can take steps to repair that. I really thank you for sharing that story with our audience, because I'm sure there's someone out here watching who's had that experience, you know, and wondering, should we call it quits, or can we repair this? And you're, like you said, marriage is being with two very good forgivers, right?
Yeah, yeah. And you know, I just can't describe it really for you enough. I mean, you know, we're mid 60s, maybe even some of us are moving to being late 60s, but but the point is that you can't put value around what you have. I mean, I come home from work. What my favorite thing is, turn the fire on. Ruth Ann always has really nice pajamas. I have my grubs, and if you ask my favorite thing in the world, it's for me to lay on the couch in my grubs, look over there and see Ruth Ann in her really nice little pajamas and her house coat, and think, you know what, there's just, if I have give me a choice of any 10 things, I have to start numbering it too, because number one is already decided. This is it. This is my space. I love this.
And you develop that comfort with one another. And again, really goes back to what Ruth Ann was saying earlier, is everything takes time. It takes time and getting to know one another. And getting back to my question, I do want to ask it for those out there who are dating.
Yeah.
What kind of time, or what are some of the markers maybe? Because the timeline might look different for some people, whether it's a year or 2 or 5, I don't know. But what are some of the markers maybe, if someone's considering marrying someone, to say, okay, we've gotten to know each other this way, we've gotten to know each other that way, I know this about them, they know that about me. What are some of those markers to say, okay, I can make a good decision moving forward?
What would you say, honey?
I don't know. I think are you talking about
dating.
The dating situation?
Yeah, dating, making a decision to get engaged or not, or you know, don't waste any time and go and find another partner. You know, like I think so. Yeah. I talk to a lot of dating couples, and I found myself in this position several times too. Is, okay, is this the direction God's leading me and this person, or is it not? And what can I look at to decide, stay and nurture this, or say, okay, God's got something different for us?
Mm-hmm. Well, I believe when we were dating, we dated long distance for a while. So that was hard. That was really hard. But I believe for couples who are together, I think there are markers of time. You know, this is a big one for some of my friends who have dated, and they said, I haven't heard from him all week. And then at the end of the week, he comes along and says, let's get, you know, we're going to do this weekend and that this weekend. And we're going, hey, I haven't heard from you all week, you know? So I think there's markers of time where you can come together and make it quality time, not something that you have to drag him to, or he has to drag you to. Those are very important. And be honest with each other. You know, we were talking about forgiveness and all of that. And I just feel sometimes that we have some self-awareness to do with ourselves as well, to be totally honest in the, how do you feel, you know, that I didn't, you know, I want to tell you how I feel that I haven't heard from you all week. Or could you tell me how you felt when we were having coffee together and you hardly talked to me? Something like that. Or you were on your phone the whole time. You know, these are all little things that really, I think, matter in a relationship.
And I would say 2 things, and I think these are great. One, if you can't actually be yourself, I can't just actually be me. My humor annoys him. He doesn't appreciate this. I'm just on my pins and needles. Like I just need, if I can't be me with you, this is just not, I think that's a marker. I think another thing that's a marker is if family or friends say, Terry, Reina, got to talk to you. And if they see something, because here's the truth, a good idea remains a good idea no matter how long it's investigated and tested. But a bad idea will never be a good idea. So good ideas can begin to look bad, and you got to be honest and let someone help you see it, because it's going to go that direction. I say the third thing is you just never lose your own sense of internal awareness of God and an internal sense of discernment, because your own heart will tell you. And it may just say, I just have a bit of pause here. And generally speaking, can I just tell you how it works, particularly with guys? If they're trying to sell themselves quickly, anything that speaks of delay will help you discover what you wanted to know.
Mm. And so would you say couples entering into the process of marriage, their heart should leap towards that? There shouldn't be that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Pause it, and they should just say, we just love being together. I mean, I have 2 daughters. My one daughter is just like me. It's fun. My older daughter is very academic and very skilled, and I'm way too. She just sometimes can't appreciate my humor. One time she told me, she says, "Dad, not everybody hangs out at the urinal of life." I said, "Well, not everybody, but a lot of great people hang out there, actually." Isn't that a great line? But anyway, I'm just saying. So my youngest daughter calls me. She laughs, and my oldest daughter and I are very close. When she was a baby, I could hold her, and she was. My wife said, "That is frustrating. She's been crying for 3 hours. You touch her, and she's perfect." So we're extremely close, but we're just very different in our personalities. So I think those 3 things: let family and friends be a great voice. Mm-hmm. And again, if you say, I can't trust my family, then go with friends, but find trusted people and let them say, gosh, he seems like such a great guy, or gosh, I really just like her. Mm-hmm. Or if they see things that pause, listen to it. Mm-hmm. Don't be in a relationship where you have to almost prep yourself up for the night to go well. Mm. You ought to be able just to go as you are, with who you are. Just, this is who I am. And, if it's not appreciated, hey, don't worry about it, because it will be by someone. And I think your own sense of spiritual awareness. God will speak to you. He can speak through others, but I think his preferred desire is to speak in covenant language to the hearts of those that he knows are his. And God will say it in words that maybe mom, dad, friends wouldn't have said, but your own heart tells you, I gotta make some decisions here.
I saw a meme lately. It said something similar to what you're saying. It said that when it's not from God, it will come with doubts and questions and feelings of just not quite right. And when it is from God, it will come with confirmation.
Yeah, that's so true. You're right. And that's I think that's the best to say. It's life is a risk. Every relationship has a risk quotient in it. You can't deny that. You don't always win. That's also true. I've tried many times to win with people, and the more I said, the worse it got. So I remember my first church we were in as pastors, but anyway, young couple, they just, the husband was all with me, but the wife could not dial in. And they ultimately got divorced. But what I found out from her mother was, you reminded her of a youth pastor that she despised. So my only flaw was I reminded her of someone who wasn't someone she appreciated. And that happens sometimes. So you can't win them all in friendships. And, when you date, you're going to date some wonderful people. And, I didn't really get dating all that much because I came from Kansas right. In my church. And so all the girls were like my little sisters, So I just didn't date a lot. I met her like after being out of high school for probably 10 weeks or so, the summer. And then I met her. We got on campus in August, and we were dating.
Had our first date on Halloween night.
Yep. And never dated anyone else. It was just we were dialed in.
Yep. Yeah, you guys are definitely the lucky ones.
Yeah. We know that.
I want to cover a little bit about your sacred rituals or the habits that keep your love alive. You've mentioned the hug every night. You have that every night. You're going to have a hug with one another. What are some of the other rituals you've put in place over the years that really make things amazing?
Well, if we can, we have a meal together every day, just the 2 of us. Mm-hmm. Doesn't have to be, it could be breakfast, it could be lunch, it could be dinner, because lives get busy and you do other things. But there's those, every day we try to do that. And one of my things that I love to do is I love to cook. And Terry loves to eat. So, and what guy doesn't? But I enjoy that a lot. And so, it's just that moment of being in the kitchen, knowing that he's going to be there. and just a little while, and we're going to sit down and not only eat, because it's never really about the food. We learned that living in other cultures. It's not about the food, it's about being together.
And I think
That's something we miss as
maybe
Americans.
because
Yes,
exactly.
we do. Yes,
maybe because
we
we've
do.
been married so long, maybe by now, looking back, some of the things that have become, just rhythms of our life probably began by rituals that we set many years ago, but now they become so embedded in what we do, they just feel like life rhythms. I mean, I think we're in each other's space. We openly share everything. They're just, like when we were younger, okay, I was playing too much softball, so I had to tell everything, okay, I'll give up one night of softball, I'll be home with you. I think I remember something about me not doing so much back in the day, but maybe by now, those rituals that we did set, intentional, because you're right. You have to make intentional decisions to put in this place, and put this in play because we want to occupy this space. You're right completely. I don't know that we do almost anything by ritual anymore. It's just become a life rhythm for us. So
I love that, because it started with ritual. It started with,
yeah, I'm sure it did.
Intentionally play a little less softball and be home. Let's intentionally have a hug. But I'm sure even now you don't even have to think about those things.
No, and we're just so much in each other's space. I mean, literally, we've lived 30 years. It was our family, just her and I and our girls. We sort of, I think that deepened our dependency on each other because we were all we had. We didn't have anything else to lean on. And in international churches, the congregation changes a lot every 3 years because guys are on 3 to 5 year contracts and they're gone. So we have lots of friends everywhere, but when it comes right down to it, it's just us. Yeah.
We have a lot of friends who are near or have taken retirement now. And so I hear a lot of wives say, what am I going to do when my husband's home all day? What do I got to get it, something has to change. And I never really thought like that because we were always together. We did everything together in the ministry, especially on the mission field. There, you just do it all together. That's just, even your kids do everything together with you. So,
and I mean, enjoy it.
Yeah, and that probably is something that won't change for retirement,
And I think that maybe because we've been doing these things, as you said, these rituals have become rhythms. I think that at this point, all those bridges we needed to bridge and all those places of dissonance that just didn't match, I'm not saying they're all gone, but I'm just saying that they've been negotiated to a spot that they don't flare up in our face that often. I mean, I jokingly say about Ruth Ann, I usually traveled before COVID about 110 to 130 days a year. I was always traveling for convoy. Then that all stopped. And so I told people, Ruth Ann's kind of thinking to herself, part-time husband was okay. You full-time could be a problem. Part-time it works, but so
yeah, but we've been in those spaces where we've been, together a lot.
But I would advocate, as you are, Reina, that for people to really recognize that the marriages they don't just turn into something great. They're intentionally created. They're built around a sense of being inclusive, and it's highly interactive. And if you can have all those pieces in play, it works beautifully. And whatever time you spend is worth it. I can't describe to you the joy in your heart. I think about that old man. You go on, honey. You go on. Don't you worry about me. I'll be fine. I never wanted her to be alone. That's a love that you can't describe it. You don't even need that old couple. I'm sure if you'd ask them these questions, they wouldn't even know where to start. It was none of the things that they knew outside themselves. Something internally, instinctively worked. And I love that. I know it is more complicated and we need more tools and we need more help today than ever. But Ruth Ann's grandpa and grandma, Italians, we basically think he probably stole her and got a bride because his first girlfriend broke up with him and he wasn't happy. These are all, of course, his BC, before Christ days. But they had a beautiful marriage and 5 kids. And Ruth Ann's mom and dad are 92, still living in their house. And at this stage, they come by and they check each other. Yeah, okay, no, that's okay. They check each other's faces. They're the cutest little couple together, and they just want to be in that house till they go to heaven. They don't. They want to take care of each other, and they'll do their very best to do it. So I love that.
And that seems actually, out of everything that you've been saying and all the tools, they just want to take care of each other. And and maybe that's the thing missing in our society today. is people who just want to take care of each other. You know, if we go into this thing saying, what's in it for me, not much will be.
That's so true.
Yes.
You found the nugget. You're right. That is it, Reina. That's very well said.
Well, it has been such a joy getting to know you this past hour, and I'm so glad to be able to share this with my audience and really find these nuggets to creating long-lasting, loving marriages, and not, you know, the typical what we see where someone on the show once said he saw three options: you could be married and miserable, divorced and desperate, or single and cynical. And we see so much, right? We see so much of that in our society today. And so it is so encouraging and inspiring to see not only that it exists, but to really talk about the ways that couples can intentionally have this for themselves as well.
Yeah. And we've talked completely seriously. I do a little video to my supporters. I call it raw and unedited. So I tell them if I can't, in a conversation that I don't get to start over, whatever I said I have to correct and move my hands. That's what we've done tonight. This has been totally spontaneous, and it was easy because you're a great host, a great hostess. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you. Where can our audience find you?
Well, you mean like I have a couple of great websites. Is that what you want? Or you want to get what kind of details you want me to provide? I'll provide anything you ask me.
I know you have a blog. You just mentioned, you know, some things that you do. Where can people find these resources?
Well, the blogs are generally, I get them posted on Facebook, so they're always going to be on Facebook. I also have a couple of websites, but the best one right now is called Global International Church Network, which is GICN. If you just do gicn.com, and that's a network we're creating globally in 6 regions of the world. We have about 160 churches inside that network now. So the blogs are often posted on that page as well. I have a personal page, but my developer is recreating that right now and getting stuff to stream. The platform I've been on for my blogs, I've been blogging for probably 15 years. I blog every Thursday. He's trying to get that migrated over so we can put everything in a whole space under my name. We're not there yet, but if they go to the Facebook page, they'll see everything.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you all for watching. And until I see you again, may the Lord bless and keep you, cause his face to shine upon you, and nourish your soul.